All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started since we are a few minutes after 3:30. If everybody can just get settled, we'll go ahead and get started. So can everyone hear me okay? Am I good? I'm typically very loud, so this is never a problem for me. So welcome everyone to our Tomorrow's Leaders breakout session. We have a record-breaking number of young professionals at VLC this year, and Justin, Harris, and I are just so excited to be here to tell you more about engaging our next generation of leaders. So before we get started, we just wanted to take a minute to introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit more about how we all got involved and why we're here today. So I'm Jessica Caniglio. I'm from the Charlotte, North Carolina chapter. I got involved with the CF Foundation 10 years ago through one of our signature YP events, Guys and Dolls. Where are my Guys and Dolls at? All of my Guys and Dolls co-chairs are here, my predecessors. They're doing amazing things. But when I started 10 years ago, I had no connection to the CF Foundation. I actually think that is something that the three of us have in common. We all started with no direct connection. Since then, I've chaired Guys and Dolls for several years. I've participated in a lot of different events. I've led our Young Professionals Board and chaired our executive board. And this year, I was extremely honored to be asked to chair the inaugural Tomorrow's Leaders National Committee. So that is what brings me here today. And I will give Harris an opportunity to introduce himself now before we get started.
Hello, everyone. As Jessica pointed out, my name is Harris Markowitz. I come from the Greater New York chapter. I have been part of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation for the last 9 years. And I think more often than not, my story is probably somewhat similar to a person that does not have a direct connection, in that I started with my friend asking me to lead a Great Strides team. So that was how my first introduction was to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I led that team for New York City's Ernst & Young, and for that first team we raised $10,000. So it was a pretty awesome event. And from there, the same person said, you are so excited about cystic fibrosis. You learned so much over the last year. Why don't you join their young professional group? And I was very hesitant, like many other people, where I didn't know the time commitment, I didn't know what was the ask, I didn't even know what the group really was. And it wasn't until I saw the signature event that we put on at the time, which was a prom to remember, that I realized this was the group for me. So from there, I've been on the what was the YPLC, now Tomorrow's Leaders, for the last 8 years. And I was treasurer, and then president and a board member. And then since then, I was on the task force to roll out Tomorrow's Leaders, and now, as Jessica pointed out, on the leadership council for it. So thank you, and I appreciate you all being here.
Last and least, my name is Justin Davis. I'm from the Western Pennsylvania chapter in Pittsburgh, PA. And I started my volunteer career 10 years ago, like you, as just a weirdo that was looking for a really great organization to raise funds for. I wanted to do volunteer work. I wanted to do more. And I had researched efficiency and effectiveness, dollars going to where they're supposed to go. And of course, all of you in this room know the efficiency of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So I was led there, and I, a year later, became one of the Pittsburgh's 50 finest, and really had a great experience, and got onto the committee the following year and made some changes and made some adjustments, and we really raised a lot more money. I now chair Pittsburgh's 50 finest. I'm on our local chapter's board of directors. I am on our advocacy team. I have a Great Strides team, Tomorrow's Leaders nationally with these two titans, and locally I chair our chapter's Tomorrow's Leaders program. And Cystic Fibrosis Foundation work is my life. So it's not my professional life. I am a volunteer, but this is my passion in my life, and we've created this program to introduce that next wave, and these guys will tell you about that. But it's a pleasure to see all of you. Thank you for being in this workshop with us, and hopefully we share and exchange some great information and build this together.
So thanks everybody for their introductions here. This national program is critical as we look forward because tomorrow's leaders truly represent our future. So today we want everyone to leave understanding how to recruit a new tomorrow's leader. And in order to do that, you need to be grounded in the program, its structure, and the benefits. We want you to understand how each volunteer can be involved in the program, whether you're a young professional, you're a brand new volunteer to the CF Foundation, or you are a more seasoned volunteer. There are so many ways for you to make an impact, and we want everyone to understand that this isn't just a young professionals thing, this is an everybody thing. Finally, we want you guys to learn best practices on crafting networking and professional development events to bring those back to your respective chapters. And as everyone's talked about today, we're all in it until it's done, and to get to that until it's done, to keep shrinking that pie that Paul and others have talked about today, we need this next generation of leaders. We need them to be engaged, and we need them to be excited. So that's why we're all here today, to learn more about this program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Harris, and he's going to tell you more about the Tomorrow's Leaders program, its structure, and what it should feel like to attend a Tomorrow's Leaders event.
Thank you, Jessica. First off, before I start, if you have questions, feel free to ask throughout, so you don't have to wait to the end. I know I usually always forget my questions, so I'd rather you ask as it comes up. So the first question that a lot of people have been asking is, who is a Tomorrow's Leader? Well, a Tomorrow's Leader, the way we had defined it, is someone that is between the ages of 21 and 40. The way we looked at this is it's supposed to be people that have just going into the workforce in the middle, early to mid of their career. These are people that, if they were a CF family, they were fundraising alongside their parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and now they're sort of moving on, and they are now fundraising on their own. Likewise, it's a diverse group of people. It's not meant that all your friends, your friend circle joins us together. The best way that it'll work is you need people from all different industries, both finance, real estate, nonprofit, whatever, college students, masters, because, as we all know, the more diverse a group is, the more ideas get collaborated and the more successful it'll be. Then the second part is the interest in professional development. When we were designing this program, we really wanted to figure out a way that this wasn't just another young professional group within a nonprofit, and really we were trying to think about what really attracts a young professional. And it's just in that name, professional, it has to include a professional component. So, part of the way this program is being developed is we have added the professional development. We realize that within the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's network, there's such a broad range of expertise across all the chapters that could help this group of young professionals. And lastly, and most importantly, it's, the commitment to a cure. As we've all said, the three of us don't have that direct connection, and there's a common theme to that. Cystic fibrosis, as we heard this morning, it's such a buzzword. It's become such the it disease today that, we're able to it really attracts a number of people to join this group. So we really want to capture them as they are just entering their careers. So now, this to me, it doesn't say much other than Tomorrow's Leaders, but to me, this is one of the most impactful slides. When I had joined, I was part of the Young Professional Leadership Committee of the Greater New York chapter. That was one silo, as what was pointed out this morning. And, there was also, I have to read this because I can't remember all of them, the Peachtree Society in Atlanta. There was the YP Board in Nashville. There was the Associate Board in Chicago. Each of these was individual silos. When you look at this map, this is meant to be one cohesive group of people. It's meant to be that you are able to be in New York City and have friends that are in the LA Tomorrow's Leaders, in Atlanta's Tomorrow's Leaders. It's meant to be that if you're in Atlanta and you move to Dallas, you'll have a home there and instant friends. If you're in Orlando and you move to Chicago, you have instant friends there and a whole network of people to keep you involved in the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So, I show this slide. One of the areas where we believe Tomorrow's Leaders stands out is in the programming. The idea is you do need to have events and programs throughout the year to continue keeping people engaged. If you just say have your YPs involved in Great Strides or a signature event They will not, it will be hard to keep retaining them. Likewise, when we see this, it's not meant that every YP has to go to every single event, but it's an option for them to be a part of. So, and again, we have a number of different events. So, just so I could explain a little bit, the open house, we would recommend having 2 of them a year because those are supposed to be your recruiting events. Likewise, with Great Strides, we would ask that your young professionals be a part of your annual Great Strides. And it doesn't have to be, obviously, every chapter has a number of walks. It doesn't have to be all the walks. It could just be one of the walks. And we would say that you have a tent at that main walk to show their presence. And then likewise to help plan a signature event. And again, there's not really a set signature event. It's what works for your chapters. Then we also have professional development and networking events. And I don't want to take away Jessica's thunder, so I'll leave that to her. But then the last one is national opportunities. Now, what is a national opportunity? One of the things that the CFF National Chapter will be implementing is webinars and podcasts that all 70 chapters will be a part of, that will be able to ask questions. So these will be, multitude of things, whether it's professional development or fundraising, but it's just supposed to be relevant WebExes for a young professional group. But likewise, I also define a national opportunity as being a part of, your chapter's gala. For example, New York, we always volunteer at our annual gala. Or maybe it's having a team at the Cycle for Climb, Climb to a Career or Cycle for Life. So it's not, it's doing an event that a chapter already has, that it's not it's not meant to be an additional event that you have to plan. Okay. But now the question is, and I wish I had a slide for this, but it's okay. I can do my YMCA. Who plans this? So we kind of look at this as a pyramid, and there's 4 tiers to that pyramid. At the first rung, you have what's known as a member. These are usually your newest Tomorrow's leaders. These are your members that will pay the $65 annual contribution, and they are invited to a number of events to sort of get them introduced to the program. Then you go to the next rung, which is your champions. And your champions are the ones that have been part of the program for, have seen a number of events, usually been part of it for about a year. And these are the ones that are sort of integral to the success of your Tomorrow's Leaders program, because these are the ones that are sort of what I'm going to say your workhorses. These are the ones that are helping to plan, that are helping ideas, that are helping getting people to come to your events. And then the next tier is what's known as your council. So these are what I usually define as your committee heads. So this would be your social media chair, your logistics chair, your Great Strides chair. And there's not really a set number. It's what works for your chapter. And these are the ones that are sort of helping the champions sort of move up to their position. And then the last one, the top rung, are your chairs. So these are usually your chair or your co-chair. And these are the people that are sort of your driving force for your Tomorrow's Leaders group. These are the people that are saying, this is what makes sense for this chapter and what we should plan. They are also your liaison between the Tomorrow's Leaders group and your local chapter. And likewise, the chair is also part of your board of directors to sort of bring in that component as well. So now the question is, how should it feel? What should a Tomorrow's Leaders group feel like? And I define this sort of 2 ways. I'll start with myself. When I attend, as being part of this group, how do I want to feel? And I'm going to say, one of the most important things is it should feel like a team. Just like at work, when you're working on a project, you need to work together. Everyone has their role. Everyone has their responsibility. But more importantly with that, you also should be friends with one another. How are we all successful? When we don't like working with people, when we don't know people, or when we actually want to say, how was your weekend? What did you do? When's your birthday? I would love to go to it. It doesn't necessarily have to be CF related. And that's what keeps it exciting. That's when you realize that this is something more. And then on the other hand, when you go to an event, what should it feel like? And I'm going to say, just like every other CF event, it should feel like you're at a cystic fibrosis event. It should be professional. It should be respectful. And most importantly, it should be fun. And I will say, we have our board of directors actually looks forward to coming to our YP events. It's not, people always associate YP events as just a group of people that are 25 and 30 that, are at a club. No, it's put on by a group of young professionals, but it should be open to everyone and should be inclusive. So now the next question is, how do you get people to come to this event and be part of your Tomorrow's Leaders? And that is what Justin will explain.
Thank you, Harris. And hello to our friends watching live. And again, thanks everybody for being here. So here's a statement that Harris, Jessica, and I all agree on. Tomorrow's leaders are going to get us to the finish line. This is the new pipeline of people that, like us, like many of you, did not necessarily have a direct connection to cystic fibrosis. And now, it's our lives. It's what we do. And thanks, Chair. But again, as Harris pointed out, this is a program for young professionals that are, advancing in their careers, they're developing themselves, they're evolving, and like all of us that are, in that position, we want to do more, and sometimes we need to be asked. Very common thing I get from people that I know that aren't doing any type of philanthropy, charity work is, I really want to do something. I want to get involved. I see on your Facebook and your Instagram all the time that you're doing stuff. I really want to do something. And this is kind of a formal program to kind of address that. So you all see some materials in front of you, and there's a worksheet that I'm sure you've been, wrapping your mind around. And as we've been talking, you've been thinking of people. So keep those light bulbs going over your head because that's going to come into play here. One of the big questions is, who do you know? And to put it in no uncertain terms, especially with the dynamic people in this room, we know everyone. We know everyone. So it's a matter of really putting it down and structuring it and figuring out who we can make these initial asks to as we build that pyramid that Harris talked about with the members and the champions in your council and your chairs. We all have young professionals in our lives, and you'll see that we categorize them on this worksheet for you as a template as friends, family, neighbors, co-workers, service providers, and past donors and volunteers, people that you've maybe worked with on other stuff, Great Strides, or your honoree event that might not have been an honoree but might have really helped you in the moment and really would be someone that would fit this program well. That's what we need to start thinking about and putting down in writing and making these asks and bringing people to these open houses and networking events. So we have all these people right under our noses, people that fit this to a T and are likely looking for a way to give back, and we're going to offer them that opportunity. And recruitment isn't just limited to members and champions and council members. We also have to reach within our network and start brainstorming people that we know that might be generous, people that own a business where we could host one of these networking events, or people that can offer some type of service or facilitate something that we're trying to accomplish to advance this program. So again, these worksheets that are in front of you are going to be a tool that we're going to leave you with today to really start getting that process going. And I know most of you have already gotten this going. A lot of open houses have already occurred. But we don't really necessarily need to think outside of the box on this one. Everything that we need to make this successful is kind of already in the box that we know. And the biggest thing is to use your passion. When we're recruiting these people, this is something that we're here in Washington, D.C. because we are passionate about this cause. And a lot of times in my experience, my passion is contagious. And my friends want to be involved. People that I don't necessarily know well feed off of my passion for this cause, and they want to get involved in something that someone else is so passionate about. Our goal. We want to treat everyone with cystic fibrosis while we cure this disease. But this program, Tomorrow's Leaders, is the most mutually beneficial program that we've offered, even more so than our honoree-based events where you're getting a spotlight and some shine. This is a true networking group, and most young professionals in my market are involved in every networking group. They'll give them a try and see what comes of it. And a lot of times it's this typical business cards in your face and, let me get your car insurance quote and start your Roth IRA for you. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a culture of people that are commonly bonded by this cause. So it's an organic network. It's going to be the most successful network in my market for sure, because again, if I've learned anything from Pittsburgh's 50 Finest and recruiting 50 new people each year, it's that the common bond throughout that entire campaign is that they fought for a cause. They bond with each other. In my personal life, I have not done a single thing in my life, buying a car or switching a cell phone or anything, without touching my cystic fibrosis network. Think about that. And we're going to build a formal program. Harris showed you that piece with the outline of our country that is universal, that you could go to any market, and we have universal events and we have universal thought process, and we're all still advocating for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And these aren't people that necessarily need to come out of their pockets today. When you're thinking about building these members and these councils, we're talking about people that are maybe entering their careers, but maybe they're entering with a corporation. And maybe right now, all they can do is attend our fun events and our fundraisers and things like that, and just our mixers. But maybe in 6 years, when they've gone through a couple promotions and they're in a position where they can sponsor something for $10,000, or they're going to be the person that gives you an honoree from their company who is in your program and breaks the record for fundraising during that term. This is that pipeline of people that we're going to build. And I want you to really think about that when you have these worksheets in front of you, because we're going to start to put some names down. I'm going to give you a homework assignment right now and start to really think about some names of people within each of those subcategories that we mark down, within your friends and family and coworkers and places you do business. And start to write those names down of people that we can make that ask to attend our open house or attend our networking event or attend these professional development events. Think about people that you know that might be of a local celebrity status, might have written a book, that, you know, a professional development of some sort, and that could really facilitate one of these seminars that we're going to, you know, offer to our, you know, professional development sector of our tomorrow's leaders. Write them down. We're gonna check your work. We're gonna wander around the room here and see what brainstorming you've done, because again, I know you all know these people. I mean, this is something that's gonna happen very naturally. So write down, and you know, we're gonna come around. We're gonna share with each other. And where are we moving on to here, Jess?
After this,
Yeah.
they're going to fill out these, and then we're going to move on to engagement.
Okay, so
Well, maybe not. Before we move on to the exercise, does anyone have any questions? Because we'll start with that.
Can you talk about the champions level a
Mhm.
little bit more?
Can you repeat the
Do you
question?
expect-
Here, don't mind.
You're expecting, I mean, I think you
It's a
said
live
that
stream. Can hear
that's
you.
more of,
John, can you talk in here so the
Redo
live
it
stream
again.
can hear you?
for our online listeners,
Can you talk about the champions level a little bit more? You said something like those people might have been involved in the program for a year. So does that mean this inaugural year we probably wouldn't have members of that level?
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, it's also, to be fair, it's also people that could have already been involved with the foundation, that kind of already familiar with the foundation, Great Strides, or the Gala, or other events, chapter events that they've already been to. But yes, to your point, if we're looking at it just at tomorrow's leaders level, you really don't have that for your inaugural year.
Thank you.
So are these events that you're talking about basically the finest events that some of our chapters hold already, and then expanding on that? So that's our young professional event?
no. So this is going to be a completely separate piece. So those events are already going to be in place, and they're going to continue in their success. And ideally, what's going to happen is there's going to be a feeder system for each other. Tomorrow's leaders are going to become those finest honorees, because they're going to start as members, and they're going to get familiar with our cause and our mission, and they're going to create their stories. And at that point, especially in my market, I'm going to be looking at tomorrow's leaders as who from this group has stood out or maybe jumped up to that champion level and is going to be a 50 finest honoree, because they get it. I mean, there's no better way to start, because you're not starting from scratch at that point. And by that same token, some of the honorees that have been through those programs are also going to translate in tomorrow's leaders, because the idea is to keep people engaged. You know, a lot of times honoree-based programs, they're one and done. And our job is to recognize what their skills are, their talents are. Maybe somebody's great for our wine committee, for a wine opener, or if you have a beer event, then there's an honoree that would be a great person to put on the council for that. But this is going to be great, because it's unlimited number of people. And, you know, if someone reveals themselves to be, you know, that kind of talent that we want to keep, that's where we're going to retain them. So I hope that answers your question. But right now we're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to wander around the room here and answer questions while you're filling out these worksheets. And we want to kind of make sure that we're getting our brainstorm on. So, again, Jessica Harris and myself, Justin Davis, will be, oh, I have a name tag on. You don't need to know that, but we'll be meeting you right now.
So you guys will have 5 minutes to really think on this who you know worksheet and really brainstorm and get your list together so that you can do this when you go back to your chapters. You can get those people involved. All right, everyone, I think our 5 minutes has maybe more than expired, so hopefully you guys all got a good list together. One quick thing that you'll also see at your tables, there are little cards at your table. The intention with these cards is that you use your list, you fill them out, and you make that immediate connection when you get home to try and get people involved in the program. So these cards are just a way for you to remember, to look back at that who you know list and give them these cards or email them, call them, however you want to do it. But just a reminder for you to take with you to action this list when you get home. Okay, so I think now we all understand more about the program. You guys have brainstormed about who you can recruit to the program. So how else can you get involved? Obviously, if you are a young professional, you should sign up for Tomorrow's Leaders and join your local program. You can host or donate space to an event. Justin alluded to this earlier. One of the hardest things about planning an event can be finding a cost-effective, we like to do things on the, for a good price here at the CF Foundation, is finding a cost-effective space that's still fun and that will create, an environment that people will enjoy. So if you have access to a space to do that, absolutely let your Tomorrow's Leaders chair or your staff representative know that is such a valuable thing that you can bring to the table. You can also provide mentorship and networking opportunities for the members of Tomorrow's Leaders and the council. And what we're going to focus on for the next few minutes here is you can also be a part of developing a Tomorrow's Leaders professional development or networking event. And so oftentimes when I'll speak for myself. When I'm planning something, if I have just a blank sheet of paper in front of me, it is very, very hard for me to think through things. I need some structure to get my thoughts on paper. So what you see on the screen, and there's a handout that we'll use in a few minutes here, this is an event creative process. It's some steps that you can go through to put structure around thinking through a professional development or networking event for your Tomorrow's Leaders programs. So the first component is, what time of year is it? What topic is top of mind for everyone? So this time of year, there's things like tax season, and I don't really do sports, but I guess it's March Madness, maybe. Is it? Somebody tell me? No, not yet, later? There's basketball happening in college, guys, I don't know. But that's something that's happening now, and Cinco de Mayo is another one that's coming up. So the first step is just thinking about that, what time of year it is. The second thing is, what are your skills or resources that you can provide toward this event? So using myself as an example, I'm in the financial services industry. I work for a CPA firm, so I have a lot of resources in that area. So I would think about maybe planning an event that was around financial planning and tax planning for the group. And the next thing you need to do is figure out how to connect it back to the theme or the mission. So as you're thinking about financial planning and ultimately estate planning, your contributions to the CF Foundation can extend beyond your living years through a legacy gift, and that's a message that you can share with people, which is, if you financial plan appropriately, if you tax plan appropriately, you can continue to make an impact on the CF Foundation. So that's just one kind of example of an event that we walked through. It's basically this one, so I'm not going to go through this slide. The example we have up next is an example of a networking event. So summer's coming, right? So that's top of mind. Well, maybe not top of mind yet because it's still cold out, but as summer comes around, it's a great time to get people outside and really thinking about this, doing a backyard barbecue with the time of year being summer, and inviting CF families, your tomorrow's leaders, and any other volunteers to just come mix, mingle, network, and learn more about each other in a little bit more of an informal environment. And there's not a slide for this, but Harris's chapter just did a great event, so I wanted him to quickly share the example that his chapter just did.
So the Greater New York chapter just had, it was a mix between, I'm going to say, professional development and networking. And the topic was cystic fibrosis, a fight we must win. And this was actually in partnership with MasterCard, who's already a sponsor of our chapter. And 2 of our board of director members helped us put on this chapter. Put on this event. And this was in conjunction with what is known as their YoPro, so their Young Professionals group. So for us, the time of the year was what made sense for them and what their calendar worked. And what would be covered would be, we actually had a speaker there, Nick Talbot, and if you haven't heard of him, he is the first person with CF to ever climb Mount Everest. So I don't know how many of you could say you've climbed Mount Everest, but he is an extremely motivational speaker. Obviously, how would it tie back to the mission was we learned all about, it was an introduction both to CF, how his endurance of what he had to do to train to be able to climb, and also just brought 2 groups of people together, the Tomorrow's Leaders who knows about cystic fibrosis and the MasterCard YoPros, who this is a first introduction to what is cystic fibrosis. And we actually, who would host, it was actually at their corporate headquarters. And then the exciting thing about this was it kind of goes back to one of my other points, which is using the resources that we already have. We had a board of directors member who already works at MasterCard, their YoPros group, so bringing the 2 groups together. And with that, it was also, to bring in a third topic, it was almost also a recruiting event. Is there anyone at MasterCard that wants to join our Tomorrow's Leaders? And in fact, we actually just received an email this morning saying, a person that works at MasterCard in Miami wants to be connected with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation down there. So, as you're planning these events, it doesn't just have to be each one of those things, because it could be a combination of each.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Harris. So the intention of the next few minutes, I know we only have about, Julia, 18 minutes-ish left. The intention was to do another exercise, so I'm thinking we were going to have 10 minutes, but maybe we'll just do 5 because I do want to give you you guys a chance for questions. So what we're going to do, you should have another worksheet at your table now that outlines that event creative process we just talked about. I'll put it back up on the screen too. Oh, maybe not. Oh dear, now I'm in real trouble. Okay, I'm back, sort of. So we'll put this back up on the screen. I'm going to walk around and assign each table either professional development or networking. I will assign you a time of year, and then you guys will have 5 minutes at your tables to brainstorm on a professional development or networking event, and then we'll pick a couple of tables to share. So I will quickly walk around and assign those. Okay, guys, we want to give you a few minutes to ask questions. So we're cutting the exercise a little bit short, but hopefully we can still have a couple of people that are ready to share. Julia's going to walk around with the mic. So are there any volunteers that want to share? Okay, they're ready up here, Julia. So.
Hello, my name is Layla White, and I am with the Georgia chapter, and I'm actually the chair of our Tomorrow's Leaders program.
Oh, great. We love that.
Thanks. I guess I'll stand up for the wherever that camera is. Do you want me to talk about what we came up with?
Yeah, just quickly maybe take a minute to walk through what your assignment was.
We didn't have an assignment.
Oh, you did? You guys have already done what I came over
So
there.
we'll just talk about what, yeah. Okay, so professional development is what we picked. Kind of cheating because we're in the midst of doing this right now. So the idea here is kind of looking at your personal brand and working with young professionals to develop their personal brand. So we actually, in 2 weeks, we're having this session where I have one of my clients coming in who's a vice president at an ad agency and walking through an exercise that talks about like being self-aware and kind of going through these, kind of asking yourself these questions. It's kind of, what do I think about myself, but what might others think about me? And then coming up with a personal brand statement. So, and how you can kind of tie that back to CF is that all of us are advocating and raising money. So a lot of that's on social media. So kind of think about like, what's the perception that people have about you, and then how to really use social media to help further the mission of raising money.
That is amazing. That's a great idea. Everyone should do that. John Muscati, write that down for Charlotte.
Hi, I'm just going to stay sad, if that's okay. Emily Bolero from New York City, and we have a couple others representing here. We have Sonoma County and Orange County, and someone from the foundation's board. Am I explaining that correctly? Board member. So our idea was professional development, and the time of year was given to us, which was July/August. And so we thought about kind of incorporating nothing better than kind of alcohol. And so we would do kind of like a wine tasting, whether it's in New York, we would do it in the Long Island, kind of North Fork. Of course, say no more, the wine country of California, breweries in Denver. So, and the idea would be we would do kind of almost like speed networking, where you'd get to do a different tasting at each table. And the way that it would be incorporated back to the foundation is that we would have board members present at each station, which would be bringing it back to obviously the mission, as well as professional development with, high-powered executives. So nothing better than that for the young professionals. So that was our idea.
Awesome. That's a great idea. Great. And just go one table back, and we'll do one more, I guess, so that we can have time for questions. And you guys had professional development, yeah?
We did.
Okay.
Professional development in the fourth quarter, October through December, basically. The things that come to mind around then are obviously holidays, travel, parties, but stress basically kind of envelops all of that, especially with budgeting around the holidays. I think we're talking about connecting it back to the mission, because the families are also dealing with stress, probably even more so than the young professionals. But maybe bringing in somebody in the banking industry or even the medical professionals to help deal with stress and budgeting around that time of year.
That is great. Thank you. Okay, I think we did want to leave you guys time for a couple of questions, so instead of going through more examples, we'll go through. We have a question right up here, Julia, I think.
Here we go,
Georgia again. So with specifically with the professional development, personally, what I think would be really beneficial and helpful is almost like a top-down from the Tomorrow's Leaders Council nationally of here are the events from a professional development, like have a personal branding, have a financial planning, so that way it's kind of consistent around all the chapters, so almost like a calendar of the cadence of the professional developments and what those topics are. So if I move to Dallas, that I kind of pick up kind of around the same time and the same thematic, type thing from the professional development versus, however many Tomorrow Leaders Councils there are locally, is at 70, and we're all sitting there spending an hour brainstorming when we know all this brainstorming has happened around the country. I think that would be very, very beneficial.
And so I am glad you asked that, because Julie and I were just talking yesterday about we are going to start a closed Facebook group just for the Tomorrow's Leaders, chairs only, and probably some of our national committee here, so that you can all share those ideas and take advantage of things that people learned or things that worked well, that didn't work well. So hopefully that will help with some of that.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thanks.
Oh, Justin's got something.
And just to that point too, I mean, I understand what you're saying about wanting to keep it, consistent, but also understand that, some of the talented people that we have within our networks, There's going to be opportunities to get someone in some, realm that we can't necessarily predict. So we do have to take those opportunities, the best opportunities that we have, and not just try to pin it down to, well, we're going to do a financial one this month or something with professional etiquette or something like that another month. We do have to seize those opportunities when we have them, and there may be some overlapping in different markets. That's not a bad thing at all, but I do understand your point, and that's a great point. That's something I didn't really think about.
Hi. Our first open house event, we struggled a little bit as far as we had a call beforehand to explain to everybody, hey, this is what we want to discuss in the open house event. But at the same time, the open house event, you're explaining what tomorrow's leaders is. So we found ourselves kind of explaining it twice, and I felt like we could have gotten a better turnout at the open house had we not explained it quite so much the first time. So my question is more along the lines of, how do you balance like how much you tell people before the open house? Because at the open house, you can present it in such a better way. You could say, okay, this is the environment that you're going to be. You can interact with the people that are going to be there. You could see the full explanation. But on the other hand, like when you just get an email that says, hey, come to this event, you need more information to be like, oh, this is worth my time. So I don't know if you guys have struggled with that at all.
You guys have both done.
Yeah, no, I mean, getting them to the open house is opening the door, but revealing that calendar to them, where you're going to have a monthly event, you're going to be, having access to national events that we already produce. We're going to produce tomorrow's leaders events, which are going to be the professional development groups and the networking meetings. That's what you roll out to them when you get them to the open house. So yeah, you're selling them on the fact that this is a network of young professionals that they're going to meet, and they're going to feel like it's probably going to be similar to a lot of networking groups they're already involved in. But rolling that calendar out and showing them dates and times and even names when you have some stuff on the calendar for the professional development seminars, that's going to be what you explain in front of them in person at that open house.
And I think the other thing is too, the call is to kind of give you like the structure over here is what tomorrow's leaders group is, and then the open house is for them to actually meet people, and it's sort of part of the responsibility of the chairs and the council to find those connections where so and so works in real estate, so we're going to try to pair these two up so that they have that common bond, or these two have the direct connection to CF. Let's try to introduce them to someone who doesn't have the direct connection so that they can learn about each other. So it's that personal interaction versus the informational as the beginning should be the call.
Do we have any questions coming in from online?
I've been checking. I did my job. I didn't see any.
If you're listening in online, feel free to type in questions as well.
I think we'll take maybe one more question right here.
So prior to, we were always hosting our kind of monthly meetings for the former YPLC. And so just so I have it cleared, are we also going to be hosting kind of our monthly meetings in addition to that, or how do other chapters do that? Because I know for us in New York, we have our monthly meeting, and then in addition to that, we will have this networking event or Great Strides or whatever it will be. Do other chapters do that as well?
Well, understand this is being rolled out now.
Oh, sorry.
So, we're rolling this out now, so, this is brand new. And while we have done our best to build this structure and have a format, there are going to be different. You guys come from a market where you've already had a very successful YP, and so I don't know.
Can I jump in, Justin?
Yeah, of course. That would be great.
So these are going to be, the program events are monthly, and it's recommended that you have 4 council meetings a year as well, in addition to that, because your council is going to be the one that is helping you create some of these events in that structure. So it'll be, once a quarter for those meetings that you've held once a month.
Okay, I think we are about out of time, so thanks everyone for joining us today. We hope that you leave here feeling energized and ready to go recruit. And I just want to thank Justin and Harris. They've been wonderful partners in putting this together, and Leah and Julia, you guys have been amazing. We've loved working through this with you, so thank you. You guys are amazing. And I think we were going to have a slide that I think maybe had our emails, but we do want to share our emails with you guys. You're welcome to come up here, and I think we probably all have cards if you're interested. But alternatively, if you signed in on the sign-in sheet, you will get a communication probably from me or from one of us at some point just to kind of follow up with the group on how things are going. So you will get our contact information either way, but reach out or stop up if you'd like to ask additional questions. Thanks, everyone.
Use those worksheets.